Now, there's always the potential that Wikileaks information could be disinformation put out by the United States itself. But since it exposes the link between Saudi Arabia, in my view, and Al Qaeda, and what is being said is not necessarily what it would appear to be. For instance, could the United States be warning Saudi Arabia to not keep supporting Al Qaeda? Or is there really, as the cable will show, a real schism between the Saudi royal family and the Bin Ladens? I will now read from the cable. This cable is a meeting between counter-terrorism advisor Bernan's meeting with the Saudi King Abdullah bin Saud, classified by poll councillor Lisa Carl. Saudi King Abdullah welcomed the White House counter-terrorism advisor and Ambassador Williamson and Ambassador Fraker to his private palace on March the 15th for a 90-minute discussion focused on US-Saudi relations, counter-terrorism operations, the Yemen Guantanamo Bay detainees, Iran and Iraq. Brennan presented the King with a letter from President Obama expressing a personal message of friendship, appreciation for our close collaborative relationship and concern over the disposition of Yemeni detainees at Guantanamo. The Saudi king said that he had told the Iranian Foreign Minister Muqtai only minutes before that Iran should stop interfering in Arab affairs and had given Iran a 1-year deadline to improve its relations with Saudi Arabia. The Saudi king expressed a complete lack of trust in the Iraqi Premier al-Maliki and held out little hope of improved Saudi-Iraq relations as long as al-Maliki remains in office. When asked what advice he had for President Obama, the king said that he had one request, that it was critically important to restore America's credibility in the world, US-Saudi relations. 2. Saudi pledges of friendship. Brennan asserted that the US-Saudi alliance must remain strong and assured the king of President Obama's wishes for a long and healthy US-Saudi relationship and the president's personal commitment that Saudi Arabia had a friend in the White House. The king replied that he had appreciated the sentiments and that he had great respect for the President Obama. We, the king said, spilled blood together in Kuwait and in Iraq. The king continued, Saudi Arabia valued this tremendously. Friendship can be a difficult issue that requires work, Abdullah said, but the US and Saudi Arabia have done it for 70 years, over 3 generations. Our disagreements don't cut to the bone, he stated. Now, this relationship is, of course, describing the relationship between the United States, the Saudi royal family, and, of course, the Bin Ladens, who used their CIA training to blow up American buildings on 9/11. But of course there is a schism between the Saudi royal family, the Bin Ladens and the United States. This is what is being described. The US credibility is critical. The Bush administration is now in the past, the king said. Both President Bush's were his friends, but the recent president didn't take his advice on dealing with issues in the region, and they found their problems compounded. The king said, we are ready to consult, provide guidance to do whatever is necessary. We are a people of the region and we know it well. Brennan responded that the President Obama wants to listen and asked what advice the king would offer to President Obama. Abdullah said that his one piece of advice was restoring US credibility in the world was critically important. Brennan responded that this was an important issue for President Obama as well. Brennan said that the United States President Obama will restore our credibility. He said the US is a great country and we know what we have to do. The world needs Obama, Brennan said. President Obama looked forward to seeing the king at the G20 summit in London. Thank God for bringing Obama to the presidency, the king answered, which has created great hope in the Muslim world. May God grant him strength and patience, Abdullah continued. May God protect him. I am concerned about his personal safety. America and the world need such a president, that without which no Saudi meeting is complete. Abdullah said, as a friend, it was a mistake to limit the access of Saudi citizens to the United States, since this damages bilateral relations and the image of the United States in Saudi Arabia. The king noted that there were 60,000 Saudi students abroad, about one-third of whom were in the US, and others would have gone, but for the difficulties in gaining access to the United States. The king noted that for many years, very senior Saudi officials, including Prince Saudi Al Faisal, had studied in the US. He had then noted that the Saudi ambassador to the US, Adel Al-Jabir, who was interpreting for the king, had studied in the US and was half American as a result. He also said that he was aware of and appreciated Ambassador Fraker's efforts to improve the visa situation, even though there were people in Washington who fought him. Finally, he observed that anyone who from Saudi Arabia who studies in the US inevitably becomes a friend and advocate of the United States, and that we only hurt ourselves by cutting off this flow of students. Detainees. Guantanamo will be closed, Brennan explained that President Obama had made a commitment to close Guantanamo to eliminate the potential propaganda benefits to its existence provided to Al-Qaeda, but also because it was the right thing to do. Brennan assured the king, however, that President Obama would remain strong on counter-terrorism. Brennan presented the king with a letter from President Obama addressing the issue of Yemeni detainees in Guantanamo. Brennan noted that he had met with Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, MBN, the day before to discuss at length the issue of Yemeni detainees. Brennan further stated that he would be travelling to Sana'a the next day to meet with President Saleh, as the issue of remaining 99 Yemeni detainees still needed to be resolved. Brennan praised MBN as an outstanding counter-terrorism partner, and that MOI was doing a wonderful, courageous job in countering the terrorism threat in the kingdom. Returning to the subject later in the conversation, Brennan warned that the US feared Yemen would become another Waziristan, and urged that the US and Saudi Arabia needed to work together to keep Al-Qaeda in Yemen from growing even more dangerous. The king replied that having Somalia next door to Yemen only adds to the danger. This is what I've been saying for a long time. Brennan said that the capabilities of the Ministry of the Interior Security Forces had grown impressively over the past 10 years. Brennan added that the counter-terrorism and intelligence sharing cooperation between our countries had never been better, and that MBN deserved the credit. In an unusual concession made at the conclusion of their conversation, the king said, "Be assured I am fully briefed on the work that you are doing with Prince Mohammed bin Nayef." How to track detainees. I've just thought of something, the king added, and proposed implanting detainees with an electronic chip containing information about them and allowing their movements to be tracked with Bluetooth. This was done with horses and falcons, the king said. Brennan replied, horses don't have very good lawyers, and as such a proposal would face legal hurdles in the United States, but agreed that keeping track of detainees was an extremely important issue that he would review with appropriate officials and return to the United States. In the next cable, I will now describe about Iran and Saudi Arabia's relationships, which of course are tense.